I was gonna try to do a video today, and I came up with a song that was kind of from the 80s that I'd never really heard. It was done so well, I thought, well, I might could actually play along with that because the drum sheet part was actually just okay. I thought about using one of my old things that I made back in college, and I made this crazy thing right here. Probably 19 at the time that I built this. This is probably my first year at UGA that I built this thing. Can you hear it? But none of the triggers are working, and I was really gonna try to do this because I was gonna play the whole intro on this guy right here. This is the jack that I made, look at this. I came up with this when I was 19. I was working in the engineering department or the audio department over at the University of Georgia for WUGA, which is a public radio station. We did lots of jazz and classical. But I got to work with a lot of cool stuff, and I learned how to do fun things in that work study program. And the jack goes in, and that's how I came up with it. It's like a computer thing. I went to Radio Shack and bought all these things. I saw this done when I went to see Bella Fleck open up for, I believe it was Take 6 at the Fox in Atlanta. Old buddy of mine, Steve, we went and saw those guys, and Bella Fleck opened up, and this cat walked out, and all of a sudden I heard the best-selling drum that I had ever really heard. And I was like, what? How is that drum machine programmed so well? And they kept calling him Future Man. I couldn't really figure it out, so I went and got the CD as soon as I got back to Athens that next day, and had to have it. I was like, what is this stuff from Bella Fleck and the Flecktones? I just couldn't believe how good all these cats were, because I wasn't in Nashville at this time. I was in college. I saw him play again at the Georgia Theater with the Flecktones on that same tour, and I got to be up close and see how Roy Wooten, Future Man, did this and figured this out. He's using an old synth-ax or something from the 80s, so I just kind of built something that made sense. He had set his stuff up to have a left-handed part here, a left-handed part down here, and a right hand like this, where this controls your toms. This is a kick drum. This is another kick drum, which doesn't really work right now. Snare drums and all your cymbals. These are all your toms, is how it was set up. This right here was bass, so you could play like this and then just do kick drum and snare drum patterns and like that. The left hand was something also too, so I could sit there and try to work on this. But I found out if I bent them, I could make other sounds. Learn to kind of work these things, and I could get 16th note patterns based on one finger. Yeah, see, I don't think you can hear the cymbal. That's kind of how it was. It was very cool. I took it to class one time in a jazz improv class. I played it one time, and everybody couldn't believe what it is. They had never seen anything like it because they had never seen those guys play yet. But I went back and I built what I saw him do, and I was using an Elisa sound module at the time, so it had 16 channels. So this thing has 16 different sounds that I have running in this little controller. But the controller is totally analog. Everything inside here, I routed all this stuff out. What's inside here, just these little wires. It's just the wires running all these little piezo transducers. These piezo transducers hook inside here, and they connect with one central ground. I figured that one out. Ran that ground down to channel 1, which is my kick drum. And that's how I kind of ran sounds. But with 16 channels, I could play a lot of different sounds. I could open and close hi-hats without having to use any kind of pedal. When Roy was doing this the first time I saw him and the second time, he was using a DW pedal that kicked backwards, and he could stand up and play and have the kick drum, because I think this was pretty new at the time for him, and they hadn't really set up to where he could really control the kick drum parts with his fingers yet. But they did have it set up to where they could do all the other little parts, the cymbals and the percussion. But he was great at this whole thing. And is great. After I made this, a couple of years later, I started seeing a company called ZEN DRUM come out, and they had something close to this. It was shaped a little different and had pads all in triangles. It looked more kind of like a gaming setup, and it still kind of does, kind of like a Batwing or a stealth bomber. This, kind of has an 80s-ish look, I don't know, but that synth-ax did too, and that was my first thing I ever saw. But it doesn't play right, and I don't think I'm gonna be able to use this in that song, so I at least wanted to show what this was and kind of document. Look at what I did when I was 19 years old in college, just in the engineering department at UGA, playing with their soldering irons, and I was just building snakes and cables, and that's all I ever really did was build cables. Every day I'd go and I would just make cables and just make them. So this little thing right here, I actually gonna show you. Here we go. I don't have an Elise module, so I'm having to run this on a TD6 right now. I've got all these plugged in. I've got a few extra, and I had one break, but that's these little thin wires, and that's what's inside this whole thing, are this, and they are barely plugging in. So I got a feeling this might be kind of the end of this, or I'm gonna have to rewire the whole thing. But if I did that, I'm gonna have to take this back off, and I'm gonna have to rewire the ones that are broken, because some of them just do not pick up. And it could be in this part, it could be a wire, because those wires are so small, but I didn't really know what else to use at the time. I kind of just made up what I had. But yeah, isn't that fun? So I wish I could show you what I had done on this thing, because I actually got, I can't do it anymore, but I really got to where I could kind of goof off with it and play some fun stuff. But I wanted to use it in a song today. It's just not gonna happen. But this is a cool, very neat little thing that I built. So yay, drums.